We're going to be working together on Killing in Action Case Study 3 Module 4. Our budget for this movie is estimated to be $15 million. Now, how do we get to getting this thing funded? What do we actually do? What are the steps? Now, the first step we would do is we would present our film, the script, our cast package, our director, our budget, to a sales agent. We will say, here is our movie Killing in Action. We have Mark Forrester to direct. We have an A-level cast in the lead. It's a genre script. It's very commercial. And we are thinking of producing it for $15 million. Can you, sales agent, give us your sales estimates for what you believe you can generate from international distribution, from international sales? So the sales agent will issue a sales estimate sheet that looks like this. It has all the various countries in it, and it references a minimum guarantee license fee that they would pay to us for the license to release the film in their country, in their territory, on television, streaming services, or even in theaters. It's entirely up to the distributor. The local distributor can release the film in whichever fashion they would like. And they pay us a minimum guarantee for that. Now, in our example, we will look at the take scenario, which is the low scenario, which is the one scenario the bank will look at. It's also the scenario every investor will look at. This is the main scenario for you to consider. This take number should ideally be somewhere between 70 to 75% of your budget. So just keep that in mind. In our case, we round about that number because our take sales estimates for international sales of distribution rights is estimated to be at $11,287,500. The ask estimate, which is the price that is higher, representing a medium to high level of revenues, is $16,931,250. Estimates are not sales. These are just projections. They don't mean anything. They just give you an idea of the potential value of your film. It's just a piece of paper where the sales agent tells you, this is what I think I can do for you if you give me the movie. And then you can decide whether or not you want to give him the movie. Now, in this case, we decided we're going to give this movie to the sales agent. We trust him. He's bankable. We believe he can do this. And he is also selling movies that are very similar to ours and is making a reasonably successful amount with them. So we did our research. Now he begins starting to sell the movie based on the script, the cast, and the director and the budget. These are the project elements that he will go now and pitch to all of these different distributors in all of these different countries. And what he's doing is he's pitching our movie this way in order to achieve pre-sales. Pre-sales are actual sales done before our film is being produced. So based on just the project elements, he can establish these sales. And in our case, he established the following pre-sales for us. He sold the UK for $1,312,500. He sold the German rights for $1,687,500. He sold the Spanish licensing rights for $937,500. He sold the Hungarian licensing rights for $150,000. Mexico, $562,500. Pan Asia, $468,750, and South Korea for $375,000. So each distributor of this country now has the right to release the film after we delivered it to them, which any way they want, theatrically or not, television, doesn't matter. They have to pay this amount when we deliver the movie to them. So what they do right now is they sign a distribution deal that says, once you deliver me the movie, I will pay this. Now, what does it mean to us? It means nothing at this point because all we have in our hands is a piece of paper. So we need to figure out how we monetize that piece of paper, and we'll get to that in a minute. For now, we know we made a total pre-sale amount of $5,493,750. That's the total of all the pre-sales we made. And then when we look at our sales estimate sheet and we take out these territories, so we're taking out the UK, we're removing Germany, we are removing Spain, we're removing Hungary, we're removing Mexico, Pan Asia, South Korea. We're removing this out of our sales estimate sheet because these territories are no longer available for us to sell. So if we take them out of our sales estimate sheet, what we are left with is the rights we still have to sell. And these are the unsold rights. So when we look at our take territory, after we removed the territories that we have sold, we are still looking at 6,892,500 to sell in the take level. And for the ask level, we are looking at $10,338,750 in potential rights that we can still sell. So this is again the sales estimate sheet that we had before that showed us 11 million and some change in all international potential distribution rights. This was a projection. Now we went and actually sold some territories off that list, and the territories that we have sold we have to now take off the list because we can't sell them twice. So that's why we are left with 6,892,500 to still sell in territories on the take level, and 10,338,750 to still sell in the ask level. Again, we have a bunch of paper, we made these distribution agreements, they're pre-sales, that's great, but pieces of paper doesn't help us to cover our cost for our production. And the idea here is to do pre-sales and use that money as a financing source for our budget. The way to do this is we take these contracts now to the bank. The bank will look at these contracts and will give us a pre-sale loan. So in our example, the bank will look at all the contracts valued at $5,493,750 and it will give us 100% of that. In the real world, banks usually tend to discount this a little bit. They'll also obviously apply interest rates, and we'll get to all these more diverse models as we go forward in our course, but for now we keep it simple. So for now we're assuming that the bank will cash flow all our contracts and will give us a loan against our pre-sales, which is a pre-sale loan for $5,493,750. Now the bank does not just look at the rights we have actually sold and we have actually contracts for. It actually also looks at the rights we haven't sold yet. And it has value for the bank. So depending on who the sales agent is, that value can be higher or lower. In most cases, the unsold rights are valued at 50% for a potential loan against these unsold rights. That means, in our case, the unsold rights of $606,892,500 are a potential collateral for the bank of $3,446,250 to give us a gap loan for. However, there's a little thing we need to know. The bank will never ever give us more than 20% of our budget as a gap loan. No matter how many unsold rights we have available, no matter what the collateral amount would be if you cut it in half, because again, in order to get to the gap loan, you need to take your unsold rights and divide them by 2, and that's the gross gap loan amount, unless that amount is higher than 20% of our budget, which in this case it is, because 20% of $15 million is $300,000. The 50% of our unsold rights, however, is $3,446,250. So we are $446,250 over what the bank would allow to give us, which is why the gap loan is going to be limited for us at $3 million. So if we take the gap loan and the pre-sale loan and we combine them together, we have a bank loan of $8,493,750. Again, we will not apply any interest right now, no loan fees, because we want to keep this case study simple. Okay? Now, this is about half of what we need, because we need 15 million. Where's the other money coming from? Well, here's where it's coming from. We decided with our director that we are shooting this movie in New Mexico. As you may know, New Mexico has a very strong production tax incentive available for anyone who shoots their movie there. and 25% of whatever you spend in New Mexico is giving back to you as a tax credit or a tax rebate, whatever is applicable. What that means for us is when we go shoot in New Mexico and spend money there, we get 25% back. Now, in reality, that means we need to go to New Mexico and we need to be shooting there and we need to be spending money there. And then by the end of the year, we're going to turn in a tax return and then we get the credit. That is also not very helpful if we want to use this money to cover our production costs. So what do? Again, we get a loan. In this case, we get a loan from a production incentive lender. By the way, production incentives are sometimes also provided by banks. So depending on what bank you work with, they might give you a loan for the production incentive as well. But there are specialized lenders for this out there who will look at the estimated production incentive that will come to you based on what you're planning on spending in the region, and they will give you a loan based on that estimate. And they will of course charge you a fee because they will then have to do that tax return thing, and they will get paid by the tax incentive region. You do not pay this loan back. The tax incentive region will pay the lender back. So this is for you a non-recoupable loan. So you basically get this money and you don't have to pay it back. Just remember this. The tax incentive lender will charge 3% of the loan, and that will be $112,500. And the loan is 20% of our budget. We're assuming that the entire budget is going to be eligible as an expense in New Mexico, which would be 25% of $15 million, and that is $3,750,000. If we're deducting $112,500 in fees, we have a net incentive loan available to us at $3,637,500. Now I should say here, in reality, there isn't really any production incentive region that I know of that will give you your entire budget is eligible as an expense. So we're doing it here for simplification. Just know that the eligible expense is probably going to be less than your budget. Just keep that in mind. Okay, in our case, however, our entire budget was applicable, so we're good. Now, where are we? We have the bank with $8,493,750. We have an incentive loan of $3,637,500. So altogether, we have now covered $12,231,250 of our budget, which is $50 million. Now we're still short. What do? This is now the time where we are plugging our equity in. Our equity covers the balance. The equity investor will cover $2,868,750. The equity investor in our case is asking for a 10% premium, which is very low. Usually it's 20%, but the equity is nice, so we're dealing with the premium. Now remember, the premium is payable from the recoupment. It's not deducted from your equity. So when the equity investor says, my principal investment to you is $2,868,750, that's what it is, and that's what you get. So let's go to the next slide. Here, what do we have? We have now made our movie because we got all the funding sources together, we got the budget covered, we got the movie made, and guess what? We sold all the rights. We sold the pre-sales, we sold the unsold rights, we're very happy. So in this case, we go and we have our international pre-sales coming in at $5,493,750. These are revenues that we're counting. We're also counting our unsold rights of $6,892,500. Great. So our total distribution revenue at this point is $12,386,250. That's what we made. Now how do we get to profits? Well, we get to profits by taking our distribution revenues and deducting all our expenses. Now what are expenses? Remember, we hired that sales agent. The sales agent is responsible for making all the deals happen. So all the distribution revenues, they are based on the sales agent entering into distribution agreements with his buyers, with the distributors. So for that work, he's charging 5%, which by the way is very low, which is, again, it's an example. It's usually much more than that. Now in this case, it's only 5%. Now the 5% are charged on the distribution revenues of $12,386,250 because that's the value the sales agent created. So he is charging you on the distribution agreements he did for you. The bank loan obviously has to be paid back at $8,943,750. The equity principal investment has to obviously be paid back as well at $2,868,750. And here is the place and the time when we pay our equity premium. So we're paying our equity investor now 10% of the principal investment. So that's 10% of $2,868,750, which is $286,875. So our expensive, if I count it all up, the bank loan, the equity, the premium, and the sales fee, I end up with expenses of $12,268,687.50. In order for me to arrive at profits, I have to take all my revenues, deduct all my expenses, and we'll have a profit, hopefully. Well, in our case, we do. We have a profit of $117,562.50. Now, what happens next? Well, this is the time when we do profit participation payments. Now, remember that recoupment schedule, right? This recoupment schedule is based on the fact that everyone is paid in a certain order. That means the sales agent gets paid first, the bank will get paid next, the equity gets paid next, and then the premium for the equity gets paid. That's the ranking order. In reality, by the way, the sales agent is sometimes pushed back behind the bank, and then the bank will recoup first. Just keep that in mind. In our case, again, we make it a little simple. So we let the sales agent go first. These are, by the way, also not all the expenses that are applicable. Again, it's a simple case study, and we get into much more of the weeds when we work into this a little more. So for simplification, we're paying our sales agent, we're paying our bank loan, we're paying our equity, we're paying the premium, we have expenses, we're deducted from our revenues, and we get a profit of $117,562. At this point, profit participation are paid at the same time to everyone. So if we would have to pay, let's say, the cast, the director, maybe another producer, profit participations, everyone would get their percentage at the same time. In our case, the only person we're paying right now is the equity investor with 10%. So the equity investor gets 10%, which is $11,756,225, and the producer gets the balance, which is 90%, which is $105,806.25. So if we again summarize this, we're back to the total profits, which is $117,562